Good day, everybody. Kevin Hogan, author of 22 books translated into 41 languages all around the world. Today, the 21 factors of success. This is factor number 2. It's called momentum. What is momentum? We all sort of get a feeling that we know what momentum is, but how do you create momentum? I want you to think about this. I want you to just get a metaphor in your mind. Imagine that you are pushing like a barrel up a mountain. Okay, so there's the mountain, there's the Rocky Mountain, and as opposed to the non-Rocky Mountain, and we're pushing the barrel up the mountain, and it's hard. It's really hard until you get to the top, right? And then like you're right at the top of the precipice, and then it just takes a little, just a touch, and then all of a sudden the barrel goes down. Now here's the deal though, the barrel crashes at the bottom too, okay? So it gets down super fast and it's really cool, all right? But there is a crash that happens. Most people aren't aware of the crash part, all right? But the crash part is what happens when you have something that's really super successful right away and you go, wow, I got a success, time to go party, man. That's the crash barrel of the part, and that's where the barrel breaks apart. And then all of a sudden you got to go like push it up to the next hill. You're gonna have to push it up the next mountain anyway, because nothing stays perfect forever. There's no TV show on today that was on 50 years ago. In fact, I think the only show I can think of that's on like that was on 20 years ago was what, Wheel of Fortune or something like that? I don't know. There's not very many, that's for sure. So you want to build momentum, and then you do want to have the barrel go over, because you don't always want to be pushing up, but you have to be ready to get right back up when you're on the other side and push up to another one so you can keep momentum going. Momentum, when I think about momentum, I think when I was a kid, I used to go down to Huntsville, Alabama, when I'm probably like 7 years old, and the space program was in full swing. When I was 7, the Apollo 11 was on its way with Neil Armstrong and what was it, Aldrin and Collins, I think, and all those guys were I could be wrong on that. Check Wikipedia. I guess that's where you go now, right? And so they're on their way to the moon, and I thought, God, that is really cool. It's like must take a lot of gasoline to get to the moon, right? And you know what I found out? 96% of all of the fuel that was stuck into the rocket, and really the rocket was just a whole bunch of stages, and when you go down to Huntsville you could actually see the stages of the rockets. You probably still can today. Things are monster, like 100 feet or 120 feet long. They're like a third of a football field, and they're tall, and these things contain some magical formula that got the rocket to escape Earth's orbit. But it wasn't just one burst of energy that got the rocket, because you know what would happen is they would take this monster sized, they would light all the fuel in here, and then boom, and off it goes, and then all of a sudden that builds momentum. But it only gets you up about, and I'm making this number up, you'll have to check the 168-hour week living life your way 24/7. Actually, it's in there, but let's call it 10 miles. It only is going to get you up 10 miles, and then you got to have another one. And this next one is actually going to sort of shift off the trajectory, so you need another burst of energy. And actually that's not enough, because you still have to have one more just to get out of Earth's orbit. So boom, one more. And now you've got 3 stages of the rocket. They all fall to the ground, to the Earth, land in the ocean, hopefully. And then what happens now? Now 96% of all the fuel has been spent. The goal, the outcome, to the moon and back. That's only 500,000 miles round trip, all right? Think about it. You're doing what, 15,000 miles an hour? You're going to be there in a couple of days, okay? Maybe 3 or 4 days, because you can't really take a straight trip. It's kind of complicated, but you get the idea, right? So you're going to be in this little dinky little pod, basically, and you basically have no gasoline in the car, and you're going to get there and back on almost nothing. Why? How can we do this? Because we had the momentum at the beginning, and the barrel went over, okay? And the barrel then takes it the rest of the way, and then they got to the moon, and on that little teeny amount of fuel, they were able to get all the way back, all because they used the rocket stages to get off of the ground on Earth. That was the hardest part, was getting started. And you're going to find in anything that you want in life that's really significant, anything beyond waking up in the morning and having breakfast, it's going to require a ton of effort at the beginning, and it gets a lot easier as you get going. Getting The Psychology of Persuasion published, for example, was a lot of work. It took 6 years. But after that book was published and did well, and it didn't do just well, right? It had to have trajectory that was pushed again by rocket bursts of human energy, right? And other bursts. But once it was going, it caught on, and that's what happens. And this is going to happen to you too. You're going to have enormous amounts of power up front at the beginning, and then later on it gets a lot easier with that project. But then when you get that project goes to the bottom of the hill, and the barrel crashes, now what do? Now you got to put the book out in paperback. Now you have to write a new book. Now you got to do the whole thing, and you're going to do the whole thing all over again. And pretty soon you're going to have lots of mountain peaks that you've been to and owned, but they're all acquired because of breaking momentum. So going to the moon in the back is the storyline, right? We talked about that in the last video. The thing that gets you there is the multi-stage bursts at the beginning. The first one is just getting up in the morning and saying, no, I'm not going to do that. Today, instead, I'm going to spend the whole day doing this. That's what I'm doing today. And the third is breaking orbit to where you've now redirected and rechanneled your energy. You've thought about it. You looked at your plan. You've gotten beat up a little bit here and there. Things have happened that aren't perfect, and now all of a sudden you're on the trajectory for the moon or for whatever your goal, your destination is, and now you have the result of the momentum happening to you. Now instead of you pushing the project, the barrel coming down the mountain, the pod heading to the moon is pulling you, and now you have to keep up with it. Now you're getting called so often for the interviews, and now people want to talk to you, and now all of a sudden that's what's going to happen in your world. So as you plan for success, you really don't have to plan for the destination. You have to plan on creating the momentum, developing what it's going to take for the energy early on, and that storyline, and that's really what's going to get there. And remember that success, like in life, in the terms of real life, is just a whole bunch of mountaintops. It's a whole bunch of smaller successes that makes up the bigger life story that's really cool. All right, guys, I will see you here next time.